Are you someone who thought a nursing home would be the safe haven you needed, only to realize it wasn't what you expected at all? Today, I'm sharing the 6 hard truths I learned after moving into a nursing home. And trust me, these are things you need to know before you make a decision like this. I never imagined that a place built to care for you could end up feeling more like a trap than a sanctuary. When I first moved in, I believed I'd finally have the help and companionship I needed. But soon I discovered that the reality of life in a nursing home was a far cry from the comforting image I had in my mind. In this video, I'm breaking down everything I wish I had known beforehand. I always thought that being in a nursing home meant having round-the-clock care, easy access to medical help, and a community of people just like me. But what I found was a mix of challenges, compromises, and moments that tested my spirit in ways I never expected. From the loss of independence to the daily struggle for personal dignity, I faced hard truths that I now want to share with you. If you or someone you love is considering a move into a nursing home, then stay with me as I reveal what they don't tell you about life behind those closed doors. Let's dive right into the first truth: the loss of independence. When I walked through the doors of the nursing home, I felt a sense of relief knowing I wouldn't have to manage everything on my own anymore. I thought having a caregiver around would mean more free time to enjoy my hobbies, more security in my day-to-day routine, and a sense of belonging. But what I didn't expect was how quickly the little choices that made me feel like myself would slip away. I remember the first morning in my new room. I woke up with the expectation of choosing my own breakfast, selecting the music I wanted to listen to, or even deciding what to wear for the day. Instead, I found myself bound by schedules, with meals served at fixed times and activities that were planned for me. It felt as if the simple freedom of choosing even the smallest detail of my day had vanished. I quickly learned that in a nursing home, the management's idea of care sometimes meant taking away personal decision-making. This isn't just about having a set menu or a strict daily routine. It's about how that loss of choice chips away at your sense of self over time. The second truth is the surprising reality of social isolation, even when you're surrounded by people. You might think that living among hundreds of residents means you're never truly alone. But the truth is, genuine connections can be hard to come by. I spent hours in the common area, surrounded by others, yet I often felt an overwhelming sense of loneliness. It wasn't that there weren't people around, it was that the relationships formed felt shallow, and the opportunity to connect on a deeper, more personal level was scarce. Many residents were just passing time, waiting for a visit or an activity that might lift their spirits for a short while. The constant background noise of television and routine conversations only highlighted the lack of true, meaningful engagement. I began to realize that while the nursing home promised community, it rarely delivered the type of genuine companionship that fills your soul. In many ways, it reminded me of a crowded room where everyone is there, but no one really sees you. The third hard truth I learned was about the quality of care, which often varied widely from day to day. When you're in a nursing home, you depend on the staff for everything, from your medication to your meals, from your hygiene to your emotional support. Initially, I thought I was in good hands, but soon I noticed that not every caregiver was as compassionate or as attentive as I had hoped. Some days you'd have a nurse who was kind, patient, and attentive, making you feel seen and cared for. Other days there was a sense of hurried indifference, as if the residents were just tasks to be completed in a long checklist. There were moments when I would call out for help, only to be met with a busy schedule and limited staff. The inconsistency was jarring. You'd never know if today would be the day someone truly cared about your well-being, or if you'd be left to fend for yourself with minimal assistance. This unpredictable quality of care not only affected my physical health, but also eroded my trust in the system that was supposed to keep me safe. Moving on to the fourth truth: the overwhelming feeling of being treated like a number rather than a person. In my previous life, I had a history, a family, friends, and memories that made me unique. But in the nursing home, over time, I felt my identity slowly fade away. The daily routine, the standardized meals, and even the way my room was decorated all started to blend together. The personal touches that once made me feel at home were replaced by institutional efficiency. I began to notice that the staff often used generic terms like resident, or client instead of using our names. They would refer to my needs in a clinical, detached manner. Even small things like celebrating birthdays or anniversaries were handled impersonally. I had to fight to keep a part of my individuality alive, and sometimes it felt like the environment was designed to erase the unique aspects of who I was. This dehumanizing experience made it clear that a nursing home is, in many ways, more about managing a population than caring for individuals. The fifth truth centers on the mental and emotional toll of being in a confined space with limited stimulation. When I moved in, I expected plenty of activities, games, group exercises, even outings. What I found, however, was a monotonous routine that quickly became draining. The days blurred together, and it felt like I was stuck in a never-ending loop of scheduled activities that barely scratched the surface of what truly enriches life. The lack of mental stimulation was palpable. I missed the spontaneity of life outside the nursing home, where every day held the potential for something unexpected and exciting. Instead, the predictability of the schedule, combined with the low energy of my peers, created an atmosphere that was more reminiscent of waiting than truly living. This dullness didn't just affect my mood, it began to impact my memory, my focus, and my overall sense of purpose. It was a slow, creeping change that made me question if the safety of the nursing home was worth the price of lost vitality. And finally, the sixth truth, the hidden financial burden and the feeling of being trapped by debt. When I made the decision to move into a nursing home, I believed it was a necessary expense for peace of mind. However, I soon discovered that the financial strain was far more significant than I had anticipated. The cost of care wasn't just a monthly fee, it was a constant reminder of how much I was giving up to have my basic needs met. I found myself constantly worrying about hidden fees, rising costs, and the possibility of having to sacrifice my savings for something that should have been a comfortable retirement. The financial burden extended beyond the individual. It affected families too. I saw many residents who were forced to rely on government assistance or the help of their children, which created tension and stress that went far beyond the walls of the nursing home. This realization was a bitter pill to swallow, as it became clear that the promise of safety and care came at a much higher cost than I ever imagined. Throughout these experiences, there was one key moment that served as a turning point, a moment that forced me to face the truth head-on. I remember sitting alone in the common room one chilly evening, watching the shadows dance on the walls as the lights dimmed for the night. In that quiet, lonely moment, I felt the full weight of my decision. I realized that I was living a life where every day was dictated by others, where the small choices that had once defined me were now lost in a sea of institutional routine. I began to understand that while a nursing home could provide safety and care, it also had the potential to strip away the very essence of who I was. That night, I made a promise to myself. I vowed that I wouldn't let this place define me entirely. I started looking for ways to reclaim a sense of control, even if it meant challenging the very system I had entered. I began to engage more with other residents, encouraging them to share their stories and dreams. I sought out moments of spontaneity, like organizing small gatherings or simply taking a walk outside whenever possible. It wasn't easy, and I wasn't always successful, but every little act of rebellion against the confines of the routine was a small victory for my spirit. Looking back, I realized that these 6 truths aren't just a cautionary tale. They're a call to awareness. For anyone who is considering a move into a nursing home or helping a loved one make that decision, it's crucial to understand that the choice comes with many hidden challenges. It's about more than just getting help with daily tasks. It's about preserving your independence, maintaining your sense of identity, and ensuring that your emotional and mental well-being are not sacrificed in the process. The reality is, no place can offer a perfect solution, and nursing homes do have their benefits, especially when it comes to medical support and safety. But if you're like me, someone who values every little detail that makes life unique, you need to be prepared for the cost that comes with that care. It's important to weigh the benefits against the risks and to consider whether there might be alternative solutions, like in-home care or community living arrangements, that could better suit your needs without robbing you of your freedom and individuality. One of the hardest lessons I learned was that it's okay to feel regret, and to acknowledge that a decision you made with the best of intentions might not have been the right one after all. Regret can be a powerful teacher. It forces you to question the status quo and to search for ways to improve your situation, even in the midst of limitations. My regret wasn't just about the place I lived. It was about the loss of opportunities to live life on my own terms. And that realization, as painful as it was, sparked a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Over time, I began to share my experiences with others, both inside and outside the nursing home. I started small conversations with fellow residents about the things we missed, the freedom of making our own choices, the joy of spontaneous laughter, the simple pleasure of a walk in the park without a strict schedule. Slowly, I realized that many of them were feeling the same way. They too had dreams, regrets, and hopes for a life that wasn't confined by institutional rules. We started to form a small group that met every week to discuss ways we could bring more life into our days. We shared tips on how to negotiate small freedoms with the staff, how to create personal rituals that reminded us of who we were, and how to support one another in maintaining a sense of dignity. It wasn't a grand revolution, but it was enough to spark a bit of hope in a place that often felt devoid of it. These discussions became a lifeline for many of us, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, we still had the power to change our own narrative. Looking at the bigger picture, I want to stress that my story is not meant to discourage anyone from seeking professional care when it's truly needed. There are many compassionate and dedicated caregivers out there who provide excellent service. However, it's essential to approach the decision with your eyes wide open. Ask tough questions, visit multiple facilities, and, most importantly, think deeply about what you truly need to feel fulfilled and independent. There's a balance to be struck between getting the care you require and maintaining the life you want. There's also the need for society as a whole to rethink how we care for our aging population. It shouldn't be about simply filling beds in a facility, but about creating communities where older adults can live with respect, dignity, and genuine connection. We need to have honest conversations about the challenges of aging and the importance of preserving the human spirit, even in the face of physical limitations. If more people understood these hard truths, perhaps we could push for changes that make these environments more supportive of individuality and freedom. As I wrap up this long conversation, I want you to take away a few key lessons from my experience. First, if you're considering a nursing home, look beyond the glossy brochures and carefully evaluate what life will really be like on a day-to-day basis. Second, make sure that any decision you make honors your personal values and your need for freedom, even in small ways. And third, remember that it's never too late to fight for your independence, even if you find yourself in a place that seems designed to take it away. Every person deserves to live a life filled with purpose, connection, and the freedom to make their own choices. I hope that by sharing my story and these 6 hard truths, you can make a more informed decision about your future. Whether you're facing this choice for yourself or helping someone else navigate it, let my experience be a guide. There will always be challenges, but acknowledging them is the first step toward finding a solution that truly fits your needs. I know that this isn't the story you want to hear when you imagine your golden years. You might have pictured them as a time of peace, joy, and freedom, but the reality as I've experienced it can be more complicated. There are times when the safety net of a nursing home feels like a cage, and every day is a reminder of what was lost when you gave up control. Yet in that struggle, there is also an opportunity to rediscover what truly matters: your identity, your connections, and your desire to live life on your own terms. I encourage you to think critically about all your options. Explore alternatives that might offer you both the care you need and the freedom you deserve. Ask for opinions from those who have already been through it. Look for facilities that put the person before the patient, where you can still be more than just a number in a long list. And most of all, trust your instincts. If something feels off, or if you sense that your independence might be compromised, take that feeling seriously. In the end, life is a series of choices. Sometimes the decision that seems the most sensible at the moment can lead to unforeseen challenges later on. I'm not here to say that every nursing home is a nightmare. Many are run by caring, dedicated people who truly want the best for their residents. But I am here to share the raw truth of what I experienced, hoping it can serve as a warning to others. As you weigh your options, remember that your life is precious and that every moment counts. Make sure you're not giving up more than you're gaining in the process. Your independence, your social connections, your mental and emotional well-being, these are things that money can't replace. And while professional care is important, it shouldn't come at the cost of your happiness and sense of self. I know it's hard to face these truths, especially when you're in a vulnerable place and all you want is to be cared for. But by understanding the real challenges, you can approach this decision with open eyes and a determined spirit. Share your concerns with your family, ask for second opinions, and don't be afraid to speak up for yourself. Your voice matters and you deserve to live a life that feels rich and meaningful, even in your later years. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope that these hard truths shed some light on a topic that isn't talked about enough. If you're ever in a position to make this decision, take the time to research, ask questions, and above all, trust your heart.